Mistress shows her true colors. After marriage, now Millionaire regrets losing his pregnant wife. Have you ever wondered what happens when selfishness and deceit disguise themselves as love? In this riveting tale of betrayal, heartbreak, and startling revelations, a seemingly perfect couple is torn apart by a sly mistress with hidden motives. The wife, pregnant and vulnerable, walks away, leaving the wealthy husband to indulge in a new romance that appears picture perfect. But when masks slip and true intentions are laid bare, the once confident man learns the most painful lesson of his life. Prepare yourself for a whirlwind of secrets, lies, and dramatic turnarounds that will leave you questioning the meaning of loyalty, love, and regret. Richard Harrington paced across the gleaming marble floor of his Beverly Hills mansion. His polished shoes clicked rhythmically, echoing off the vaulted ceilings. The Harrington estate was once the site of glittering soirees and prestige, an emblem of old money elegance boosted by Richard's ventures in real estate and tech startups. Yet tonight, the atmosphere was fraught with tension. He was on his fourth business call of the evening, arguing over the phone about a delayed construction project in Dubai. Despite an impressive portfolio and consistent success, Richard had begun to sense cracks in the foundation of his personal life. The empire he worked so tirelessly to build was quietly overshadowing the woman he claimed to love, his wife, Alana Harrington. Alana was soft-spoken but resolute, a woman whose gentle heart belied a fierce loyalty. Tall, with dark hair that framed her kind face, she was expecting their child in just a few months. While Richard was engaged in boardroom battles, she navigated prenatal checkups alone. Disagreements over trivial matters escalated rapidly, often fueled by his stress and her growing concerns about emotional neglect. That night, after the tension of phone calls subsided, Richard entered the upstairs master suite to find Alana perched on the edge of their bed. Clutching a sonogram photograph, she looked at him with teary eyes. "You missed today's appointment," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "It was important. We were supposed to learn more about the baby's development." Richard's frustration boiled over. "I told you I had an urgent crisis in Dubai. I can't just ignore business." Alana swallowed her hurt. "I understand, but our family should matter just as much." He dismissed her concerns with a wave of his hand. "This is how I provide for us. My business is our future." The rift was palpable. He was drifting further from her, too consumed with deals and expansions to notice the heartbreak blossoming in the woman who carried his child. Little did Alana realize an even darker betrayal loomed in the mansion's shadow, a threat far closer than either of them could imagine. In the opulent world of the Harrington household, new faces came and went: housekeepers, personal assistants, interns for Richard's growing empire. One arrival, however, would change everything. Her name was Melanie Preston, a dynamic blonde with a cunning mind. She appeared at first as a bright intern recommended by a colleague at Richard's marketing firm, Harrington Global Outreach. She was 24 years old, ambitious, and sly enough to fit seamlessly into the hustle of daily operations. Her resume seemed impeccable. Her references glowed with praise. Melanie started off shadowing senior employees, learning the ropes. Richard first noticed her at a charity gala he organized for a children's foundation. She was assigned to help coordinate, running around in a stylish yet modest dress, carrying clipboards and checking details. Her efficiency and charm caught his eye. When she laughed at his jokes, a bit too eagerly, offered to refill his wine glass, or brushed his shoulder with an innocent touch, Richard felt the magnetic pull of flirtation. Alana was unable to attend that gala. Bed rest had been recommended for her because of a minor complication with the pregnancy. From across the luminous hotel ballroom, Melanie's gaze locked onto Richard like a predator spotting prey. She had witnessed countless wealthy men succumb to temptation, and she knew how to make herself indispensable. A few days later, in the Harrington offices, Richard found himself calling Melanie into meetings more often than was strictly necessary. She peppered conversations with compliments about his leadership, his impeccable taste in decor, even the cut of his suit. He tried to dismiss the fluttering in his stomach, attributing it to stress. But it only grew stronger. It was a dangerous dance, and Melanie relished every step. She meticulously studied Richard's habits, his frustrations, and the slight tension between him and his pregnant wife. If Alana had been more present at the office, she might have spotted the viper in their midst. But Alana was at home, following her doctor's orders, trusting her husband's judgment. At that point, no one could have predicted the explosive consequences that Melanie's arrival would ignite. All that mattered was the dangerously charged connection sparking between Richard Harrington and a cunning intern who knew exactly how to get what she wanted. Amid swirling office intrigue, Alana found herself alone in a cavernous home, rattling with every echo of her footsteps. She was under strict instructions to minimize stress, given her recent fainting spell. The near silence of the mansion unnerved her, broken only by the occasional hum of staff working quietly in the background. Her day typically began with a breakfast tray placed in the bright morning room by the cook, Gemma, who offered supportive smiles. After that, Alana would try to read or watch baby-related videos online, but her mind often drifted to the swirl of events in Richard's busy world, a world she once effortlessly joined. They had married 3 years ago in a glamorous ceremony. Alana wore a custom gown, and Richard gave the toast of the century, extolling her virtue and vowing to protect her forever. He insisted they'd be unstoppable together. Now, that promise felt hollow. Late-night dinners alone became the norm. The robust social life they once shared shrank to sporadic charity events that she could seldom attend. Desperate for companionship, Alana confided in her best friend, Christine Michaels. Christine was a feisty journalist, known for her tenacity, especially when uncovering shady business deals. Over tea one afternoon, Christine listened to Alana's concerns about Richard's frequent absences. "Do you think there's someone else?" Christine asked gently. Alana bit her lip. "I can't bring myself to believe he'd do that. We've been through so much together, but I feel him slipping away." Christine's gaze hardened. "You're pregnant and need support. He should be there. If he's not, I'd start asking questions." Alana nodded, a swirl of anxiety building in her chest. Her friend's words echoed in her head long after she left. Each day, she wrestled with the suspicion that she was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. She reminded herself that stress was dangerous for the baby, but the gnawing concern ate at her, eroding her confidence in the life she thought she shared with her husband. Back at Harrington Global Outreach, Melanie's role expanded significantly, much to the bafflement of other employees. She found herself in advanced marketing strategy sessions, quietly perched at the edge of the conference table. Richard insisted on her presence, claiming she brought a fresh perspective. Before long, the dynamic between them grew bolder. Over lunches that stretched longer than usual, they chatted about matters far from professional. Melanie feigned wide-eyed admiration at every anecdote Richard shared about his success. She asked personal questions that straddled the boundary between curious and intrusive, everything from how Richard built his first $1 million deal to his favorite brand of whiskey. One late afternoon, after an intense meeting, Melanie stepped into Richard's executive office with a thick folder in hand. She approached him carefully, her body language suggesting more than professional courtesy. "Mr. Harrington," she began, her voice low, "I've compiled the notes you wanted on the philanthropic opportunities in East Asia." He looked up from his desk. "Thank you, Melanie. Please, sit down." She sat, crossing her legs. The tension in the room crackled like static. Richard cleared his throat, forcing his gaze away from the subtle movement of her skirt hem. "I appreciate your thoroughness," he said. "You've gone above and beyond." Their eyes locked. The words that lingered in the air said more than compliments about a job well done. Melanie stood again, stepping closer to his desk. In her gaze, Richard saw pure invitation. His heart pounded in conflicting rhythms, one for his wife and unborn child, another for the temptation sitting just inches away. He knew it was wrong. He told himself he was just lonely, weighed down by responsibilities and seeking an outlet. But as he breathed in the faint perfume she wore, logic drowned in a flood of desire. Moments later, Melanie left the office, a triumphant smile on her lips. They hadn't crossed the final line yet, but both sensed it was only a matter of time. Across town, Christine Michaels sipped her latte in the bustling cafe near her newsroom. She had just left Alana's mansion, where her dear friend looked more despondent than ever. Christine recalled Alana's trembling voice. "He won't even talk to me properly anymore. He's always elsewhere." Concerned, Christine decided to trust her instincts. She wasn't just a friend. She was also an investigative journalist. If something was happening behind Alana's back, Christine intended to uncover it. There was no time to waste. Alana's baby was due in a few months, and she deserved to know if her husband's loyalty was compromised. Christine began by casually contacting a few of Richard's employees under the guise of writing a profile piece on Harrington Global Outreach. She discovered an intriguing bit of gossip. A new intern named Melanie Preston was rumored to spend a lot of one-on-one time with Richard. Christine's antenna immediately went up. She delved deeper, learning that Melanie was hired just a couple of months ago, had an uncanny ability to charm influential men, and that her background references were a bit too glowing. Her next step was to search public records and any accessible social media accounts. She discovered multiple men praising her marketing acumen, but their praise had a suspiciously uniform ring to it. It was as if Melanie had curated her image with surgical precision. Driven by a mix of protectiveness and professional curiosity, Christine arranged a meeting with one of the mid-level executives at Harrington Global. She found a quiet corner booth in a dimly lit downtown restaurant where she interviewed the executive anonymously for safety. He confirmed her suspicions. Melanie Preston had rapidly climbed in the firm's graces, all thanks to the CEO's peculiar favoritism. Christine's mind raced. The real challenge lay ahead, proving something tangible was going on, or at least warning Alana that her husband's emotional distance might have a name and a face. But Christine knew confronting Richard directly could be tricky. She needed proof that would make Alana listen, because the last thing she wanted was to sow discord between them if, by some miracle, there was an innocent explanation. Still, deep in her gut, Christine believed the innocence was long gone. The moment Richard truly betrayed Alana happened late one night after a celebratory office event. Harrington Global Outreach had successfully clinched a mega deal with a Chinese conglomerate, and the team gathered at a chic rooftop bar to toast their success. Alana was at home, under doctor's orders to rest. As the party wound down, only a few remained, Richard and Melanie included. The city lights sparkled below them, an intoxicating palette of possibility. Melanie suggested they order one last bottle of champagne to mark the occasion. Richard, already tipsy, agreed. They toasted privately in a secluded corner, away from prying eyes. Melanie leaned in, her hair brushing his shoulder, her voice warm against his ear. The conversation blurred from professional chatter to personal confessions. Richard felt an electric thrill in that hush of intimacy. He'd never seen Alana as a burden, yet in that moment, all he wanted was to escape from the weight of impending fatherhood, the business expansions, the constant pressure. Melanie offered him a piece of excitement, a dangerous spark that threatened to ignite into a fire. By the time they stumbled into a waiting taxi, their desire was mutual, unstoppable. Melanie gave the driver directions to a swanky hotel rather than drop them off at separate homes. Inside the elevator, their lips finally collided in a forbidden kiss. Neither cared about the moral lines they shattered with every press of the elevator's ascent. Much later, in the hush of a luxurious suite, they lay entwined, the city shimmering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Richard experienced a moment of clarity in the aftermath. Guilt stabbed at him as he thought of Alan. His gentle smile, her swollen belly. But Melanie curled against his side, resting her hand on his chest, as though she claimed him. He swallowed his remorse, mentally promising to handle the ramifications in the morning. He had just crossed the most critical line of his marriage, and though he didn't fully realize it, there would be no going back. Back at the Harrington mansion, Alana sensed something was off even before Richard returned. He arrived at dawn, reeking of alcohol and feebly explaining he'd stayed to finalize contract details over drinks. She tried to believe him, but the shift in his demeanor was painfully evident. He couldn't look her in the eyes, his embrace felt distant. A nauseous swirl of suspicions took root in Alana's heart, but she choked back the questions for the baby's sake. Stress was dangerous. Stress could induce early labor. Richard, for his part, tried to maintain a veneer of normalcy. He avoided outright confrontation by throwing himself deeper into business dealings. Whenever he was home, he either slept or pretended to be engrossed in planning expansions. Now that Melanie Preston had truly entered the realm of Mistress, Richard's guilt gnawed at him. Yet, shame took a back seat to the allure of their clandestine liaison. Melanie capitalized on this hidden affair. In the office, she maintained a professional facade, polite but not overly familiar. Outside work hours, she sent flirtatious texts or seductive photos to keep Richard hooked. Meanwhile, her eyes gleamed whenever she flashed the expensive gifts he bought her, a diamond bracelet, a designer purse, front-row tickets to an exclusive fashion show. On social media, she curiously posted ambiguous hints about her exciting new life without mentioning names. She wanted the success and prestige that came with a wealthy partner, but she also craved the thrill of secrecy. To the unsuspecting observer, Richard and Melanie were just boss and employee. But in hushed corners of the Harrington offices, rumors swirled like wildfire. People noticed the stolen glances, the suspicious timing of both staying late, and the tension when Alana's name came up. Most concluded it was only a matter of time before the scandal erupted publicly. Oblivious to these undercurrents, Alana struggled to maintain her composure. She prayed each night that this creeping dread was just hormones or paranoia. She wanted her marriage to survive, needed it to survive. She had no idea how close she was to devastation. Christine finally gathered enough evidence to take a bold step. She had discovered phone logs showing late-night calls between Richard and Melanie. She also interviewed 2 interns who confirmed seeing the pair leave an office event together in the early hours. The puzzle pieces were lining up in a grim picture. Armed with these revelations, Christine went to Alana. She arrived at the mansion one afternoon, cradling a stack of documents and a heavy heart. She found Alana pacing the living room, holding her belly protectively. After exchanging greetings, Christine took Alana's hand. "We need to talk. It's about Richard." Alana's eyes filled with dread. "Just tell me." In measured, sympathetic tones, Christine laid out the suspicious circumstances: late-night calls, hotel receipts in Melanie's name, charged to a company card, eyewitness accounts of flirtatious behavior. Each piece landed like a blow on Alana's psyche. By the time Christine was done, Alana's face was ashen. "There must be an explanation," Alana whispered weakly. "He can't just betray me like this." Christine pulled her into a hug. "I'm so sorry. I wouldn't bring this to you unless I was certain. Tremors shook Alana's frame. She stared at the evidence, tears blurring her vision. She remembered the bright vow they made at the altar, how Richard said he would always stand by her. Now, these broken vows threatened the stability of her entire world. In a shaky voice, Alana murmured, "I have to speak to him. I can't live like this." Christine nodded, throat tight. "You deserve the truth. But promise me, no matter what happens, take care of yourself and the baby first." Alana crumpled into a chair, her hand trembling against her swollen belly. She'd hoped her dread was just unfounded paranoia, but the truth was even more agonizing than she'd imagined. The question now was, what would she do with it? That evening, Alana waited for Richard in the dimly lit sitting room, the evidence meticulously arranged on a nearby table. She rehearsed 1,000 questions in her head, but her emotions were so raw that every scenario ended with heartbreak. Finally, she heard the front doors open and the tired shuffle of Richard's footsteps. He rounded the corner, pausing at the sight of Alana's rigid posture. Something in her expression made him uneasy. "Alana?" he asked carefully. "Is everything all right?" She inhaled sharply, fighting the urge to scream or break down. Slowly, she held up a hotel receipt. "Care to explain this charge from the Magnolia Suites?" Richard's face blanched. "That's company business." "Stop lying to me," Alana cut in, voice trembling with anger. "I have phone logs, eyewitness accounts. I know it's Melanie Preston. Do you have any idea how this feels?" Caught, he slumped into a chair. "Alana, I'm sorry. It just happened. I felt alone, stressed with work. I never wanted to hurt you." Tears streamed down Alana's cheeks. "I'm carrying your child, Richard. You didn't even think of us." His mouth opened and closed, searching for a justification. "You have to understand our relationship changed. You were distant, always concerned about the pregnancy. And my responsibilities at work." A fury ignited in her eyes. "You think that's an excuse? That I should be more understanding of your cheating because we're having a baby? Or because your job is stressful?" He rose, stepping closer, hands raised in a futile attempt at solace. "I never meant to fall into this. It just happened, and I'll end it. I promise." But the betrayal was already too severe. Alana could barely stand to look at him. "The worst part is, you keep lying. You say you'll end it, but do I even trust that?" Richard's silence spoke volumes. Alana choked back a sob. "I need space. I can't be here right now. Not like this. I'll stay at my mother's place for a while." Panic flickered across Richard's face. "You can't leave. You need rest, proper care. This is your home." She shook her head, heartbreak etched in every line on her face. "Not anymore." Then, clutching the evidence, she turned away. Within an hour, she was gone, leaving Richard alone in the echoing mansion, grappling with the catastrophic consequences of his infidelity. Melanie Preston learned of Alana's departure the very next day. Instead of guilt, she felt a heady rush of excitement. There was now more room for her in Richard's life. The Mistress strutted into the Harrington Global offices with an almost defiant confidence. She flaunted her new status, though unspoken, in front of co-workers who pretended not to notice. In private, Melanie texted Richard relentlessly, urging him to stop living in regret and enjoy what life has to offer. At first, he was uneasy, torn by guilt and residual love for Alana. But with each day that passed and no sign of Alana returning, he found himself drowning in a toxic mix of remorse and defensiveness. He turned to Melanie as a desperate crutch, hoping to numb the pain of losing his wife and unborn child. When they were together, Melanie indulged him in lavish activities, a weekend trip to a Malibu beach house, 6 seats at an NBA game, and expensive dinners at top-tier restaurants. She posted selective glimpses on her social media, never blatantly featuring Richard's face, but leaving enough hints for people to speculate. Her phone buzzed with messages from curious friends. This was the high society life she had always craved. In the background, however, Melanie's appetite for Richard's wealth became clearer. She prodded him about potential real estate investments under her name, citing business reasons. She hinted she'd love to own a piece of Harrington Global stock, claiming it would symbolize his commitment to their relationship. Meanwhile, she cast subtle criticisms on Alana's fragile constitution and lack of understanding of the high-stakes business world, reassuring Richard that their union was somehow more equal. Richard, though not naive, was too emotionally exhausted to see the red flags. He'd wake up missing Alana, but then Melanie would distract him with some new indulgence. He tried to tell himself that his life was simpler now, without the guilt of lying to Alana. But the truth was, he felt hollow, craving an absolution he couldn't find in Melanie's arms. Meanwhile, Alana found refuge at her mother's cozy suburban home in Orange County. Far from the palatial Beverly Hills mansion, this modest house offered something she desperately needed: unconditional love. Her mother, Diana Chambers, a retired schoolteacher, fussed over her daughter like a hen with a wounded chick. Diana's small, sunlit kitchen and the scent of warm bread provided a comfort Alana had forgotten amid the sterile luxury of the Harrington estate. Every morning, Alana woke to supportive smiles, gentle hugs, and cups of herbal tea. She spent quiet afternoons organizing baby items, reading about childbirth, and talking with Christine, who visited often. Pain lingered, though. The ring on her finger felt heavy, a testament to broken vows. She debated whether to remove it, but doing so made her feel as if she was giving up on any hope of reconciliation. While she resented Richard for his betrayal, the child within her was still half his, and that bond weighed heavily on her decisions. Christine updated Alana on the swirling rumors around Richard and Melanie, how they were seen dining together, whispering in corners at business events. Each new piece of gossip pricked Alana's heart. She tried to focus on her health, determined not to let stress jeopardize her pregnancy. In her calmer moments, Alana considered the possibility of forgiveness. If Richard truly ended the affair and was willing to seek counseling, might she give their marriage another chance for the baby's sake? But then the memory of him lying about nights spent away, or the times she felt unseen and unvalued, would surface, overshadowing any inclination to forgive. For now, she cradled her unborn child and prayed for the strength to navigate whatever came next. She might have left Richard, but the real journey was just beginning. Days turned into weeks. Richard half expected Alana to come back after she cooled off, but the quiet halls of the Beverly Hills mansion remained silent. He tried calling her, sending messages apologizing for his lapse in judgment, promising he'd fix things. She only responded to confirm her continued well-being and that of the baby, never inviting deeper conversation. During this tense stalemate, Melanie quietly moved more of her belongings into Richard's home, her expensive makeup on the bathroom counter, designer clothes in a spare closet. She never announced she was moving in. She simply insinuated herself, piece by piece. Before long, she was hosting small gatherings in the living room with her group of shallow socialite friends. They marveled at the mansion's grandeur, taking selfies by the crystal chandeliers and lush garden. Richard felt a twinge of discomfort whenever he saw unfamiliar faces in the home he once shared with Alana. But part of him was resigned. Melanie always claimed it was good for networking and that she was helping him connect with new demographics. Behind the scenes, cracks began to show. Melanie grew impatient whenever Richard's mood soured. She wanted the doting, financially generous version of Richard, not a brooding man mourning his marriage. She insisted he shop with her for more high-end jewelry and went into a sulk if he dared hesitate. She also pushed him to make statements about moving on, itching to formalize her role as the new woman in his life. He found himself missing Alana's soft nature and genuine concern. Unlike Melanie, Alana never demanded expensive tokens. She cared about his well-being, not just the portfolio under his name. At night, when Melanie slept sprawled across silk sheets, Richard would lie awake, haunted by memories of Alana's laugh, her gentle scolding when he overworked, and the warmth in her eyes whenever she talked about their baby's future. Yet he remained paralyzed by pride and denial. He told himself it was too late he'd made his choice. There was no turning back. As Alana's due date drew closer, Diana Chambers decided enough was enough. Seeing her daughter's tears and worry, she made a bold move, confronting Richard. One crisp morning, Diana arrived at the Harrington mansion, ringing the ornate doorbell. A housekeeper let her in, somewhat startled. Diana scanned the lavish foyer, noticing subtle changes, shoes that weren't Alana's, a perfume in the air that wasn't Alana's brand. Fury kindled in her heart. She found Richard in his study, hunched over business documents. Surprised, he stood up hastily. "Diana, what brings you here?" She set her purse on a nearby table. "I've come on behalf of my daughter. She's due in a few weeks, and you're nowhere to be found." Richard's face flushed. "We had a falling out. It's complicated." Diana's voice trembled with anger. "Complicated? You betrayed her. She's pregnant with your child, and you're shacking up with another woman. My daughter deserves better." He looked away, shame flickering across his features. "I never intended for things to go this far. I want to make amends. But what? You can't leave your mistress because you enjoy her too much? Or are you too proud to beg for forgiveness?" Diana's sarcasm stung. She took a step closer. "Listen to me, Richard Harrington. Alana is strong, but she's hurting. If you have any decency left, you'll reach out, show her you care more about the child than your bruised ego." Richard's hands clenched into fists. He felt defensive, yet also guilty before this woman who reminded him so much of Alana's kindness and moral center. I will. I swear." Snorting softly, Diana grabbed her purse. "Don't swear. Just do it. If you let your child come into this world without a father who's present and remorseful, you will live with that regret forever." Then, turning on her heel, she left. Her words echoed in the marble halls, leaving Richard to confront a tidal wave of regret that threatened to consume him. The meltdown came when Richard attempted to pull back from the expensive escapades and shifting lifestyle. He cancelled a shopping spree Melanie had planned, citing financial constraints due to a project on hold. Melanie exploded in anger, accusing him of being stingy and still hung up on your ex. "You're a millionaire," she spat, flinging her platinum credit card onto the coffee table. "How can you deny me a few purchases when you blow money on business deals every day?" Richard ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not denying you, but I have responsibilities, family responsibilities." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, so your pregnant ex is your priority now? Maybe you should go crawling back to her if you're going to act like this." He inhaled sharply, reeling from the venom in her tone. Gone was the sweet, comforting persona Melanie once used to attract him. In its place stood a woman consumed by entitlement and ambition, glaring at him as though he were a mere stepping stone. "We're not discussing Alana," he managed, voice tight. "This is about you and your out-of-control spending." Melanie let out a harsh laugh. "I see how it is. The minute I move in, you try to lock up your wallet. So I'm just a fling for you, is that it?" Before he could respond, she stormed upstairs, leaving him in the living room with a dull ache in his chest. This confrontation laid bare a stark reality. The love they had was hollow, built on illusions and lust. For the first time, Richard acknowledged he'd made a catastrophic mistake. Worse, He realized he might lose Alana, truly lose her. Unbeknownst to Richard, this was only the tip of the iceberg. Melanie's true intentions were far darker than mere extravagance. He was about to discover just how far she would go to secure her position. 2 weeks later, Alana experienced complications. It started with light contractions that escalated into severe cramping. Terrified, Diana rushed her to the hospital. The doctors worried about preterm labor, cautioning that stress might have triggered it. Christine arrived soon after, waiting anxiously in the corridor. Gasping through pain, Alana sobbed, "I can't lose this baby. I just can't." Christine squeezed her hand. "Stay strong, Alana. You've got this." Meanwhile, in the midst of his business dealings, Richard got a frantic call from Christine. "Alana's in the hospital. It's serious. You need to come right away." His heart dropped. Without a second thought, he abandoned a critical meeting and raced to the hospital. There, he found Christine pacing outside the maternity ward, tears glistening in her eyes. "How is she?" He breathed, chest heaving. "She's stable, but they had to administer medication to stop the premature labor. They might keep her for observation. Go see her." Swallowing his nerves, Richard entered the room. He found Alana propped against pillows, looking pale and exhausted. Wires and the fourth lines threaded around her. Her expression hardened when she saw him, as though she couldn't decide whether to scream or cry. He approached gingerly. How do you feel?" She looked away, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. He reached out to take her hand, and surprisingly, she didn't pull away. Maybe fear had softened her anger. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice breaking. "I never wanted this. If anything happened to you or the baby, She let out a shaky breath. "We're all right, for now. I just can't handle the constant strain anymore." In a poignant moment, he leaned down and gently kissed her forehead. She closed her eyes, remembering better times. Despite the walls of betrayal between them, their unborn child connected them irreversibly. They sat in silence, tears dripping onto sterile white sheets. But the hush was shattered when Melanie Preston arrived at the hospital's entrance, demanding to know why Richard had vanished from a business call. The confrontation that followed would turn an already tense situation into a full-blown storm. Christine, who had stepped into the hallway to call Alana's obstetrician, spotted Melanie marching toward the maternity ward. She wore sky-high heels and an outfit more suited for a cocktail lounge than a hospital. Fury burned in her eyes. Christine blocked her path. "Melanie Preston, correct? You have no business here." Melanie scoffed. "Richard isn't answering his phone. I'm here to find out why my fiancé," she spat the word with emphasis, suddenly vanished. Christine bristled. "He's not your fiancé. He's a married man whose wife is in the hospital with preterm labor." Melanie brushed past, ignoring Christine's outstretched arm. She reached Alana's door, pushing it open to find Richard at the bedside, holding Alana's hand. The air crackled with tension. "Richard," Melanie hissed, "you just left me hanging at the office." "What's going on?" He spun around, his expression torn between anger and shame. "Melanie, go home. This isn't the time." Her gaze landed on Alana, whose fragile condition prevented her from rising to confront the intruder. With a sneer, Melanie said, "So you came running back to her after everything?" Alana's pulse pounded. She struggled to stay calm. "Just leave," she said weakly. "I'm dealing with enough without your drama." Richard's voice rose. "You're out of line, Melanie. Alana and the baby's health come first. Period." A flicker of rage contorted Melanie's face. "Oh, I see. Now that she's in a hospital bed, you get to play hero. What about me, Richard? You promised me a future." Alana let out a bitter laugh, even as tears streaked her cheeks. "He promised me a future, too, while I was carrying his child. Look how that turned out." For a long moment, no one spoke. The tension was palpable, slicing through the sterile hospital air. Finally, a nurse appeared, ordering them to keep quiet and respect the patient's need for rest. Melanie, sensing she'd lost control of the situation, stomped out, cursing under her breath. That public outburst clarified what everyone already suspected. There was no peace in Richard's new entanglement. Worse, his presence with Alana made it crystal clear that the vow he had made to Melanie was built on shaky foundations. After the nurse restored order, Alana insisted Richard leave. "I need to rest," she said, her voice trembling with residual shock from Melanie's intrusion. "You shouldn't be here." Richard stood, conflicted. "I just want to make sure. She'll be fine," Christine interjected, stepping into the room. "Medical staff can handle this. You should go." He looked pleadingly at Alana. "I do care, you know. I'm sorry." Alana fought to steady her emotions. "If you truly care, show it by letting me have peace. Don't bring that chaos into this hospital room." He nodded, eyes filled with regret. "All right. I'll be in the waiting area if you need me." Then he stepped out, leaving Alana with Christine, who promptly locked the door. Alana exhaled a shaky breath. She felt a swirl of emotions, relief, anger, sadness. Christine stroked her shoulder gently. In the corridor, Richard collapsed onto a chair, burying his face in his hands. The confrontation had jolted him to reality. He had sacrificed a loving marriage for a toxic affair with someone who was not only unsympathetic, but downright hostile to a pregnant woman. As he sat there, another visitor approached, Diana Chambers, who had rushed over from home. She took one look at him, her eyes brimming with disappointment. "Richard, I warned you that this would end badly." He nodded miserably, not even defending himself. I know. I don't know how to fix this." Diana shook her head. "You may not be able to fix it, but at least do what's right for your child. And if you have any decency left, you'll keep that woman away from Alana." Richard stared at the stark, white hospital walls. "I will," he said softly. "I promise." Leaving Melanie now seemed like the only moral option. But he was also aware that the mistress he had elevated to a place of power in his life wouldn't go quietly. Still, at that moment, he resolved to do it, no matter the cost. He was prepared to lose everything if it meant Alana and his baby might eventually forgive him or at least be free of the chaos he had created. Richard drove home from the hospital, mind swirling with self-reproach. When he arrived, he found Melanie waiting in the living room, arms folded tight across her chest. The tension in the air was almost tangible. "You embarrassed me at the hospital," she snapped as soon as he stepped inside. "Acting like I'm some outsider. I'm tired of being second to your ex." He set his keys down, taking a deep breath. "Alana is not my ex. She's still my wife. And she's carrying my child. That's not changing." Melanie let out a harsh laugh. "So you're saying I should just vanish? Let you two get back together for a happily ever after?" "I don't know if she'd ever take me back," he admitted, voice raw. "But I can't keep doing this with you. It was a mistake." Her face twisted in anger. "A mistake? All those promises, all that time we spent together, you think you can just drop me?" Richard swallowed, his mouth dry. "Yes, I should have never betrayed Alana. I'm sorry, Melanie, but this is over." She glared, eyes flashing with menace. "Oh, don't you dare give me a hollow apology. I sacrificed my reputation for you, moved my things here, believed your sweet words. And now you want to throw me out like trash?" He closed his eyes. "I'll give you whatever financial support you need to transition. But you can't stay here." Suddenly, she grabbed a vase from the mantel and hurled it across the room. It shattered into pieces. Heart pounding, Richard stepped back. "That's your answer?" Melanie screamed, tears of fury spilling. "Money to make me go away, so you can run back to your pregnant wife, the one you've been ignoring for months?" In that instant, the gold-digging veneer crumbled into a vicious snarl. Melanie was no longer the charming intern or cunning mistress. She was a wounded, enraged opportunist. And Richard found himself facing a meltdown with uncertain repercussions. He could only hope it wouldn't destroy everything he still cherished. After the explosive confrontation, Melanie locked herself in one of the guest bedrooms. The staff whispered about shattered vases and raised voices, scurrying to clean up glass shards. Richard retreated to his study, shaken, trying to figure out how to extricate himself from the situation without further harm. Later that evening, he forced himself to approach her, knock on the door. She opened it, eyes red, face puffy with rage and tears. Before he could speak, she thrust a set of photos in his hands. They showed him and Melanie in compromising positions, exiting a hotel, kissing in the backseat of a car, the two of them laughing intimately in a private pool at the Malibu beach house. They were date-stamped. "I have more of these," she hissed, "and I can share them with the tabloids, your wife, your investors, everyone." He felt his pulse spike. "You're threatening me?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm not threatening. I'm giving you a chance to be smart. You walk away from me, you'll lose your precious reputation. Maybe even some business deals. Once these photos hit the internet, your board might reconsider their faith in you." He breathed heavily, scanning the images. A scandal like this could indeed jeopardize his deals, but what scared him more was the damage it would do to Alana if these went public. The humiliation, the emotional devastation at having their personal drama plastered across headlines. The idea made him physically ill. "What do you want, Melanie?" he managed, his voice hollow. She smirked. "I want what I'm owed. A settlement for starters, enough to set me up comfortably. And if you want me quiet, you'd better pay up. A lot. Or else I'll unleash a media storm." Richard stared at her, disbelieving. The woman who once seduced him with flattery and sweet smiles had transformed into a blackmailer. He realized that beneath her polished facade, she was far more ruthless than he'd ever imagined. With threats looming, Richard feared for Alana's well-being. He didn't want her to be dragged through a scandal in her fragile state. He discreetly arranged a meeting with his personal lawyer, Jackson Reed, a seasoned man who had navigated countless corporate crises. They met in Jackson's private office. After hearing Richard's predicament, Jackson sighed heavily. "This is serious, Richard. If these photos go public, it'll be a tabloid frenzy. But hush money is never guaranteed to keep someone silent forever. She might come back for more." Richard ran a hand through his hair, weariness etched in his eyes. "What can I do?" Jackson considered a moment. "First, we can file a restraining order if she threatens you physically. As for the blackmail, we could gather evidence she's extorting you. That might help if this goes to court. But you risk her releasing the photos anyway, out of spite." Richard felt trapped in a labyrinth of consequences. "I might just pay her to leave quietly. I can't risk Alana's health. She's already been through enough." Jackson nodded, empathy in his gaze. "Understood. But do so cautiously. Document everything." Meanwhile, in her mother's suburban home, Alana was making progress in her recovery. Her condition stabilized, and the doctors expressed cautious optimism. She still wrestled with heartbreak, but focusing on the baby gave her purpose. She'd discovered a new reservoir of strength. A small part of her still hoped that Richard would rectify the mess he created, though not necessarily for a reunion, simply to ensure peace for their child. Christine, ever the vigilant friend, kept watch for any media leak. She sensed the tension building around the Harrington mansion, especially with rumors of heated arguments between Richard and Melanie. Something big was about to happen. She was sure of it. Yet she could only wait, ready to shield Alana from the aftermath of any impending scandal. Under Jackson Reed's guidance, Richard offered Melanie a substantial sum to depart quietly. She accepted the check, but not without a final parting shot. "If I find out you double-crossed me, or that you're bad-mouthing me around town, "These photos are just the beginning," she warned, her voice frigid, his chest tightened. "I won't cause you trouble. I just want you gone." She rolled her eyes, pocketing the check. "Sure, enjoy your precious life with wifey if she'll even have you." With that, she vanished, leaving behind an eerie hush in the mansion. For a moment, Richard exhaled in relief, but the damage was done. The once warm home felt hollow, echoing with a sense of betrayal. He looked around at the lavish furniture, the ornate paintings, and realized how meaningless it all seemed without Alana by his side. That night, he found himself flipping through old photos on his phone, pictures of him and Alana during happier times. Their honeymoon in Santorini, where they laughed over plates of fresh seafood, holiday gatherings at her mother's house, where he felt welcomed and loved. His heart clenched. He could almost hear her joyous laughter. He wanted to call Alana, beg for a chance to atone. But each time he started to dial, guilt tied his tongue. He had allowed so much damage, nearly jeopardizing her and the baby's health. He feared she'd never believe him again. After pacing the mansion for hours, he finally decided to visit her in the morning. He needed to humble himself, to face her anger, heartbreak, and maybe hatred, because they both deserved closure. And if there was even a glimmer of hope for reconciliation, he needed to seize it. At dawn, Richard drove to Orange County. His palms sweated on the steering wheel. Upon arriving at the quaint suburban home, he parked by the curb, steeling his nerves. The sky was tinged with pink, a fragile hope in the early light. Diana answered the door, arms crossed protectively. "If Alana doesn't want to see you, I'll make you leave," he nodded, swallowing. "I understand." Surprisingly, Alana emerged from the living room. She was visibly pregnant, her face drawn but resolute. "It's all right, Mum," she murmured. "I'll talk to him." They sat on the small porch, awkwardly perched on rattan chairs, once used for lazy afternoon chats. Now, the tension hung like a storm cloud. "You look healthier," Richard said softly. "I'm better," she replied, voice guarded. "What do you want?" He took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry for everything. I ended it with Melanie. It was the worst mistake of my life. I know words aren't enough, but I'm begging for a chance to earn your forgiveness." Alana's eyes flashed with hurt. "You think just because you ended it, I can forget the betrayal, the heartbreak, the fact that you put our baby at risk?" He winced. "I'll do anything to make this right." Her laughter was devoid of humor. "And what is right now? Our marriage is in pieces, Richard. Do you even know the emotional toll you inflicted on me? On this child?" He reached for her hand. She didn't recoil this time, but neither did she reciprocate. Tears glistened in her eyes, betraying the tumult she felt. "I can't undo the past," he said, voice trembling. "But I want to be there for you and the baby. Even if you never want to see me again, at least let me be a responsible father." Her gaze flickered. She could see the genuine remorse in his eyes. Maybe he truly meant it, but the wounds were fresh. "I don't have an answer for you yet," she said, tears streaking her cheeks. "Right now, I need to protect my heart and my child. I can't make a decision about us until after the baby's born." He nodded, tears forming in his own eyes. "I understand. I'll be here whenever you decide. And I'll provide anything you need, even if you never take me back." A fragile silence enveloped them. It wasn't forgiveness, nor was it final rejection. It was a tentative truce in the aftermath of a storm, one that left open the faint possibility of rebuilding shattered trust. As fate would have it, Alana went into labor 3 weeks later, a few days earlier than expected. The rush to the hospital was frantic. Christine and Diana were by her side. The baby's arrival sent a ripple of panic through Richard, who was informed by an urgent call from Christine. Racing once again to the maternity ward, he arrived just in time to hear Alana's screams from the delivery room. The nurses allowed only one person inside, and Alana, in the throes of contractions, found herself reluctantly allowing Richard in. Despite everything, she wanted him to see his child's birth. It was an intense labor, complicated by Alana's earlier health issues. Hours passed in agony, with Richard coaching her breathing, clutching her hand. He witnessed her pain, her tears, and the sheer courage she displayed to bring their child into the world. At last, a piercing cry filled the room. A baby boy, healthy despite the tumultuous pregnancy. The doctor placed him in Alana's arms, and she gazed at the tiny face, overwhelmed by love and relief. Richard stood beside her, tears streaming down his cheeks. "You did it," he whispered. Her gaze flicked to him, still carrying the weight of betrayal, yet softened by the miracle of this moment. "We did," she corrected softly, though the statement was layered with meaning. The next few hours were a whirlwind of medical checks, family visits, and emotional tears. Alana cradled her son Lucas Harrington against her chest, feeling every ounce of motherly devotion surge through her. Diana and Christine shared the joyous moment, tears of happiness overshadowing past pain. Richard lingered in the corner, not wanting to intrude on the tight circle of maternal love. But when Alana finally beckoned him forward, his heart soared with hesitant hope. He gently touched Lucas's tiny hand, feeling a surge of protectiveness he'd never known. Yet, the question remained, could this precious child mend the rift between them? Or had the damage from Melanie's treachery and Richard's betrayal cut too deep? In the days following Lucas's birth, Alana and the baby stayed under medical supervision. Richard took up a near-constant vigil in the hospital's waiting room, stepping inside to see Lucas whenever Alana permitted. The synergy of father and child was undeniable. He changed diapers clumsily, rocked the baby when he cried, and gazed at him with awe. For Alana, witnessing Richard's devotion was both heartwarming and bittersweet. She remembered the nights she spent alone, pregnant and anxious, while he indulged in another woman's arms. Yet she couldn't deny that he seemed genuinely changed. The question was it enough? On the day she was to be discharged, Alana asked for a private conversation. They stood by the hospital window, Lucas asleep in a bassinet nearby. She turned to face Richard, arms wrapped protectively around herself. "I've thought about this a lot. I believe you're sorry, and I want Lucas to have his father in his life." He nodded slowly, heart thumping. "But I can't just forget what happened," she continued, voice trembling. "I won't put myself in a position to be betrayed again. If we move forward, it has to be with boundaries and professional help like counseling. No secrets, no half measures." Tears glimmered in Richard's eyes. "I'll do anything, Alana. Therapy, accountability checks, you name it. I don't expect forgiveness overnight, but let me earn your trust back." She studied him for a long moment. "I'm willing to try for Lucas's sake, and maybe for ours. But one misstep, and I'm done." "Understood." He exhaled in relief, nodding vigorously. "Understood." Gathering Lucas into her arms, she allowed Richard to walk them to the car. He gently placed their son in the car seat, a gesture that felt both surreal and symbolic, the first shared responsibility of many to come. And so, amidst the swirling aftermath of infidelity, heartbreak, and an unholy alliance with a manipulative mistress, they forged a fragile new path. It would be a steep climb to reclaim love and respect. But for the first time in a long while, there was a glimmer of hope in the Harrington family's horizon. And that, dear viewers, brings us to the end of a tale where passion, betrayal, and heartbreak collided in the most extraordinary way. One man's tragic lapse in judgment nearly cost him the family he didn't realize he needed. A cunning mistress revealed her true colors, showing that, while wealth can tempt, nothing matches the power of genuine love and loyalty. As our characters strive to rebuild, we're reminded that trust is fragile, easily broken, but not always beyond repair. In the end, Choosing responsibility, humility, and love can pave the way to redemption, though it demands courage and sacrifice. Mistress destroyed, pregnant wife's baby shower, millionaire saw everything. Silver confetti shimmered beneath the grand chandelier of the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills, reflecting the radiant glow a mother-to-be who believed this day would be filled with love and celebration. Friends and family gathered around, eager to shower her with affection and gifts, completely unaware that a storm of secrets and betrayal was about to erupt. Amid the joyful music and endless chatter, a mysterious stranger slinked along the walls, determined to destroy the very event meant to honor new life. And hidden among the guests was a wealthy onlooker, an unintended witness to a scandal that would shake everyone present. Clarissa Meyer considered herself one of the luckiest women in Los Angeles. She was glowing, almost 8 months pregnant, and deeply in love with her husband, Daniel Meyer, a self-made millionaire who'd risen from a modest background. Tall and polished, Daniel carried an air of confidence that came from hard work rather than entitlement. He owned a thriving chain of upscale restaurants across Southern California and was known in social circles for his business acumen as well as his devotion to Clarissa. He was used to the limelight, but always managed to shine it on his wife and family, rather than revel in it himself. Although Clarissa was initially suspicious of fame and wealth, having come from a family that struggled to pay bills each month, she soon learned that Daniel's heart was as large as his bank account. He made it his mission to prove to her that money didn't have to corrupt one's spirit. In their early days of dating, he brought her to soup kitchens he funded, took her to meet staff at his restaurants, and introduced her to local charities he supported. She saw firsthand that he was not merely throwing money at problems. He was personally invested in making people's lives better. When Clarissa and Daniel decided to start a family, they approached it with both excitement and trepidation. Clarissa had always longed for motherhood, but she was aware that her new life in Daniel's opulent world came with pressures. She now floated through grand galas and exclusive events, learning to navigate conversations with celebrities and politicians. Some of those individuals were genuine, others whispered behind her back, questioning if she was truly worthy of Daniel. Yet for the most part, Clarissa felt accepted. She chose to see the best in people, focusing on Daniel's unwavering support and the promise of the little life growing inside her. By her 8th month of pregnancy, they decided to host a lavish baby shower. Daniel spared no expense. He arranged for the event to be held at the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills, a real place that had seen countless movie stars and business moguls gather for high-profile gatherings. Clarissa had initially argued for a simpler location, perhaps one of her favorite local parks or a cozy backyard affair, but Daniel wanted to celebrate her properly. He insisted that Clarissa, who was carrying his future heir, deserved every ounce of lavish love he could provide. After some convincing, Clarissa agreed to the grandeur. She thought, maybe it'll be fun to have a fairy tale moment. The hotel staff, used to hosting VIPs, started planning everything: pastel-colored floral arrangements, an elaborate dessert buffet that stretched along one side of the ballroom, and tables draped in linen so soft it felt like clouds. A custom ice sculpture of a teddy bear was even commissioned. Clarissa's mother, Harriet, cried tears of joy each time a new detail was mentioned. This baby wasn't just a blessing for Clarissa and Daniel. Harriet saw it as the family's symbol of hope. She was bursting with pride to see her daughter so happy and provided for. Yet, beneath the layers of glitz and maternal joy, an undercurrent of tension had begun swirling. Whispers passed through the staff in Daniel's restaurants, little rumors about a striking new hostess who had spent extra time in Daniel's private office. Clarissa's best friend, Melody, confided that she once saw Daniel lunching with this hostess at an upscale bistro, just the two of them, their heads leaning in close. When Clarissa tried to broach the subject with her husband, Daniel brushed it off as a business meeting, claiming he was evaluating certain staff members' potential for promotion. He had always tried to identify hidden talent and mentor promising employees, especially those from humble beginnings. He saw them as reflections of his younger self, hungry for a chance. Because Clarissa had always trusted Daniel, she put her mind at ease, albeit with a small twinge of uncertainty. At nearly 8 months pregnant, she told herself that Daniel's main priority was her and the baby. He was simply being his benevolent self, or so she prayed. She was too busy preparing for motherhood, scheduling hospital tours, and dealing with swollen feet to dwell on half-formed suspicions. She wanted to believe their love was unbreakable. Veronica Cole, a sultry brunette with a magnetic gaze, had recently been hired as a hostess at one of Daniel's upscale restaurants. She was admired for her polished composure, impeccable style, and ability to sweet-talk even the snootiest clientele. However, behind her captivating facade lay an ambition that burned hotter than any typical career goals. Veronica didn't want to just climb the ladder. She wanted to take the entire building for herself. Over the years, she had learned the art of manipulation. She excelled at flirting with powerful men and planting seeds of doubt in the minds of those around them. She had set her sights on Daniel Meyer the moment she'd heard about his background: young, charming, and extremely wealthy. She found subtle excuses to linger by his office, offering him coffee when he was occupied by a meeting, or greeting him after hours, claiming she was staying late to balance spreadsheets the manager had asked her to handle. At first, Daniel paid little attention to her. He might have found her competent, but he was far more interested in returning home to his pregnant wife, who always awaited him with that open, welcoming smile. But Veronica was patient. She'd been spurned before, and it only refined her tactics. She developed a routine, working tireless shifts, acting devoted and polite to everyone. Soon enough, she charmed the entire restaurant staff. People rooted for her, admired her perseverance, and even told Daniel stories of how Veronica stayed late to help with closing duties. Eventually, Daniel took notice. Impressed by her dedication, he asked Veronica to meet him for lunch, purely to discuss how he might support her professional growth. Or so he told himself. She feigned surprise, then gratitude. When he suggested the upscale bistro, she suggested somewhere more discreet. Better to keep business matters private, she insisted. Daniel, always looking out for his employees, agreed. Though the lunch was intended to talk about a potential manager-in-training program, Veronica skillfully shifted the subject to Daniel himself, his achievements, his philanthropic work, his personal life. She used every social cue in the book, leaning forward, tilting her head attentively, providing the perfect balance of admiration and curiosity. Daniel, while faithful in his heart, couldn't help but feel flattered by the attention. Clarissa, heavily pregnant, was at home dealing with mood swings and physical discomfort. Veronica offered an escape, a reminder of who he was before the responsibilities of fatherhood consumed him. One lunch became 2, then 3. Daniel found himself comforting Veronica when she cried about her rent being raised, offering solutions, writing reference letters to help her find a more affordable apartment. He told himself he was being kind, but in reality, he was dancing on a dangerous line. Veronica's tears, like her smiles, were weaponized. She measured every tear carefully. She was aware that Clarissa existed, but in her mind, Clarissa was simply an obstacle. With Daniel's baby on the way, it was more urgent than ever for Veronica to stake her claim. She wasn't aiming to be another fling. She wanted to unseat the rightful queen and claim the throne for herself. The day Clarissa's baby shower was announced, news traveled swiftly through Daniel's business empire. Invitations spread to a network of entrepreneurs, celebrities, socialites, and close personal friends. Chefs and servers in his restaurants whispered excitedly about the glamorous event, and managers scrambled to rearrange schedules so key staff could attend. Clarissa was widely admired, and many people genuinely wanted to celebrate her big day. Veronica heard these whispers and pretended to be delighted for Clarissa, even congratulating her in person at one point. But beneath that practiced smile, Veronica felt her heart surge with resentment. She couldn't stand the idea that Clarissa, who had done little other than marry into wealth as she saw it, would bask in all this attention. In Veronica's mind, Clarissa had never worked a day in her life. Veronica had meticulously studied Clarissa's background, her modest upbringing, her college years, her volunteer work. None of it impressed Veronica. All she could see was the pregnant woman with a diamond ring that glowed like a small sun on her finger. The more Veronica raged in private, the more she fixated on a plan. She decided if Clarissa was about to receive her perfect day, Veronica would be there to destroy it. She wanted to not only sabotage the shower, but also publicly claim her place in Daniel's life. The notion of Daniel's child being welcomed into the world overshadowed her own ambitions. She'd heard rumors that Clarissa was carrying a son, an heir to the Maya fortune. Veronica saw that future as rightfully hers. And if Daniel wouldn't break the news to Clarissa that he had grown feelings elsewhere, well, she'd break it for him at the baby shower. Preparations for the baby shower went on for weeks. Clarissa's mother, Harriet, arrived in Los Angeles a month in advance to help finalize details. Harriet and Clarissa spent days sampling cakes, selecting pastel color themes, and mailing out personalized invitations. They giggled at the memory of Clarissa's childhood, how Harriet struggled to afford a decent birthday cake when times were tough, and now they were ordering a multi-tiered confection that looked too beautiful to eat. Daniel, busier than ever, did his best to check in on the plans, but in the background, Veronica tugged at his attention like a magnet pulling metal. She'd show up unannounced, teary-eyed, claiming another crisis. She made certain that Daniel gave her a ride home after late-night meetings, insisting it was unsafe to travel alone at night. Each time, she built a small sense of intimacy, complaining about the heartbreaks she'd suffered. She painted herself as a lonely soul in need of a savior. Daniel tried to keep firm boundaries, but each day his moral lines blurred a little more. Clarissa noticed he seemed more distracted. He came home with a furrowed brow, often checking his phone. When she asked, he brushed it off as business stress, expansions, new restaurant openings, competitor issues. Clarissa, wanting to be supportive, didn't press him further. She knew running a restaurant empire was no small feat. She didn't want to be the nagging wife, especially when she herself was near the final stretch of pregnancy. Even though alarm bells chimed in her mind, she hoped she was merely imagining trouble. The baby shower date finally arrived. The Four Seasons Hotel's grand ballroom was transformed into a wonderland. Tables were draped in pale pink and white linens, vases overflowed with peonies and roses, and the sweet smell of vanilla cupcakes wafted through the air. A lavish gift table groaned under the weight of neatly wrapped presents. The guest list included everyone from Daniel's business associates, Clarissa's longtime friends, neighbors from their gated community, Harriet's circle from her hometown, and even a handful of top staff from Daniel's restaurants. A small jazz ensemble played softly in the corner, setting a mellow, sophisticated tone. Servers in crisp attire glided through the room with trays of sparkling cider and hors d'oeuvre. Clarissa, adorned in a flowing pastel dress that hugged her pregnant belly, glowed with happiness. Harriet, wearing a proud grin, introduced herself to every guest, gushing about her soon-to-arrive grandchild. Daniel hovered near Clarissa, greeting well-wishers and making sure she felt comfortable. Unbeknownst to Clarissa, a storm was brewing in a nearby corridor. Veronica had managed to secure a black cocktail dress that fit her figure like a glove. She was not on the guest list, yet she breezed past the check-in table with the confidence of someone who belonged. Staff members recognized her from Daniel's restaurants, assuming she'd been personally invited by the boss. She floated through the ballroom doors, scanning the crowd like a seasoned hunter, looking for prey. The baby shower was in full swing, laughter echoing in every corner as Clarissa and Harriet tried to guess the flavors of baby food in a light-hearted game. Daniel was in the midst of a conversation with a business associate about a potential overseas expansion. Everyone was so immersed in the cheerful ambience that no one paid immediate attention to Veronica. But gradually, heads began to turn. Some recognized her from the restaurants and whispered questions about her presence. Others noticed the way her eyes locked onto Daniel, brimming with confidence. It was Harriet who first sensed the tension. She saw Veronica prowling toward Clarissa, her posture radiating hostility. Harriet quickly stepped forward to intercept her. She had no idea who the woman was, but sensed danger. Veronica flashed a venomous smile and breezed right past Harriet, heading straight for the mother-to-be. Clarissa looked up from unwrapping a tiny pair of baby socks when she felt a pair of cold eyes upon her. Veronica stood there, arms folded, lips curved in a cruel grin. The room went uncomfortably silent, all eyes flicking between Clarissa, Veronica, and Daniel. "Hello, Clarissa," Veronica purred, her voice dripping with faux politeness. "Congratulations on the baby. It must be thrilling to celebrate so publicly. Knowing you have, let's just say, competition." Clarissa blinked in confusion. I'm sorry. Do I know you?" In that moment, Daniel spotted Veronica and turned pale. He excused himself from his colleague and quickly approached, placing himself between Veronica and Clarissa. Harriet, who had inched closer, felt her stomach twist. The hush that descended over the party was nearly suffocating. Veronica seized the opportunity. In a voice loud enough to be heard by the entire gathering, she announced, "Clarissa, I'm Veronica Cole Daniels' employee, friend, and so much more. I'm here because I believe honesty is the best gift to bring to a baby shower." She turned her gaze to Daniel, her brow arched expectantly, as though daring him to contradict her. Clarissa's heart hammered in her chest. She glanced at Daniel, silently pleading for an explanation. Guests awkwardly looked down or exchanged bewildered glances. Harriet found herself stepping closer, her maternal instincts screaming that something was about to go very wrong. "Veronica," Daniel said in a tight voice, "this is neither the time nor the place. Leave now." But Veronica wouldn't be dismissed so easily. "Really, Daniel, have you told Clarissa about those late nights at my apartment? About the times you confessed how suffocated you felt by impending fatherhood?" She raised her voice a notch. "Did you tell your wife how you worried that she wouldn't be as exciting once the baby arrived?" A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Clarissa's eyes widened, tears of disbelief forming. Harriet stepped beside her daughter, one arm protectively around her shoulders, glaring daggers at Veronica. But the mistress wasn't finished. "I believed in you," Veronica went on, her voice trembling with feigned hurt. "I offered you solace when your pregnant wife was too tired and moody to care about your needs." She softened her tone to sound almost pitiful. "Daniel, I thought we had something real. Aren't you going to stand by me now?" Guests started whispering frantically. A few even pulled out their phones, discreetly filming or snapping pictures. This was a scandal that no one in that circle would soon forget. Clarissa felt her world collapsing. She glanced up at Daniel, desperately seeking denial or reassurance, anything to refute this horrible claim. Clarissa's eyes welled with tears. The once vibrant glow on her face turned to ashen shock. Daniel, breathing heavily, tried to grasp Clarissa's hand, but she recoiled. Harriet held her daughter tight, her expression a mix of anger and heartbreak. It's not true, Daniel managed, voice shaking. He turned to Clarissa. Clarissa, you know me. I would never, Veronica barked, a bitter laugh. Never! How dare you lie! She produced her phone and flashed the screen. Texts from you, photos, hotel receipts. Or should I show the charges for dinner reservations where we had our little private rendezvous? Daniel's eyes flitted to the phone in dread. He knew, with a sinking feeling, that there had been lunches and dinners, discreet times he'd stepped over a line he swore he'd never cross. But had it really gone so far as to be considered a full-blown affair? Clarissa's gaze flickered with betrayal as she saw his hesitation. "Tell me this is a misunderstanding," Clarissa pleaded. Her voice quavered, raw with emotion. Daniel attempted to compose himself. Yes, there were meetings, but they were about her role in the company, about her financial struggles. "We never," he cut off, uncertain how to explain the 1,000 half-truths he'd lived in the last few months. Veronica seized the moment. "Never? Then why does my phone have pictures of us kissing in your car last week?" Another deafening hush. All eyes drilled into Daniel, who appeared to deflate under the weight of his shame. Clarissa's lip trembled. The swirl of confusion, anger, and heartbreak threatened to push her over the edge. Harriet's hand tightened around her daughter's shoulder, feeling the deep maternal urge to shield Clarissa from further pain. Suddenly, Harriet exploded with anger, turning on Veronica. "How dare you come here uninvited and spew these lies on my daughter's special day? You have no shame." Veronica's stance turned smug. "Your precious daughter is living in a fantasy. I'm just here to show her the truth." She took a step closer, eyes flicking with triumph. "Daniel has been in my bed, telling me he's unsure about fatherhood, that Clarissa's pregnancy is making him feel trapped. He needed an escape, and I provided it." The harsh words struck Clarissa like a physical blow. She clutched her stomach, feeling an overwhelming surge of pain, not just emotional, but physical. For a terrifying second, she worried about going into early labor. She inhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. One of Daniel's business associates, an older man named Robert Morris, a fellow millionaire who'd partnered with Daniel in a philanthropic project, cleared his throat. He stepped forward, frowning deeply. Robert was a steadfast ally to the Myers and had known them for years. "Veronica, do you have any sense of decency? This is a baby shower, for heaven's sake. If you truly had an issue, you should have addressed it in private." Veronica shot him a poisonous glare. "Stay out of this, old man. Your moral judgments don't apply when it comes to matters of the heart. Or is it the wallet?" Gasps emanated from the crowd. Robert's eyes blazed, but he contained his anger. He looked at Clarissa sympathetically. "We should put an end to this. Clarissa, Daniel, perhaps you should speak privately." Clarissa struggled to find her voice. "No," she said firmly, tears still glistening. "I want to know the truth, all of it. Right here, right now." Daniel sank into a chair, pressing his palms against his forehead as if trying to scrub away the guilt. He had never intended for it to reach this point. To him, it was just a misguided emotional affair, or so he told himself. Physical, yes, there had been a kiss or two, but he swore to himself it went no further. Now, faced with Veronica's dramatic display, it seemed he had lost control entirely. With everyone watching, their eyes drilling holes into him, Daniel began to speak in a broken voice. "Yes, I spent time with Veronica," he confessed. "I was stupid. I was lonely. Clarissa has been so focused on the baby, and I—" He paused, choking on his words. "No, that's not an excuse. I should never have crossed that line, but I swear to you, Clarissa, on our baby's life, that I never slept with her." It was emotionally inappropriate, but it never went beyond a few moments of weakness. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some believed him, understanding that mistakes happen when couples face major life changes. Others saw it as the typical denial of a cheater who'd been caught. Veronica's lip curled in scorn. "How dare you reduce me to a fling," she hissed. "We had a connection. You told me you were unhappy, that Clarissa wasn't fulfilling your needs. And now you're throwing me to the wolves in front of all these people?" Daniel rose to his feet, trying to maintain composure. "We didn't have a future. I told you that from the start. I love my wife. I love our child." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry for how I led you on, but this is not the way to handle it." Clarissa watched their exchange, her heart in tatters. The man she revered had betrayed her in ways she never imagined possible. Yet the line between a total affair and an emotional entanglement was blurred, especially given Veronica's allegations. Clarissa's mind spun with questions. Who was telling the truth? Was Daniel partially lying to save face? How could she have been so blind? Harriet steadied Clarissa, whispering that they should leave to end this humiliation. But Clarissa, fueled by a mixture of heartbreak and anger, decided to confront Veronica herself. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "Veronica, I don't know how far things went. I don't know what you hope to gain by humiliating me at my baby shower. But let me make one thing clear, you have no power over my child's future or my marriage." She cast a furious look at Daniel, who appeared remorseful and conflicted. "Whether he is telling the truth about the extent of your relationship or not, you will not destroy me. I won't give you that satisfaction." Veronica's eyes flashed. "You think you can just close the door on reality because you wear a wedding ring. I'm not finished." She took a step closer and announced, "Daniel, the first pregnant too." A stunned hush fell again, even heavier than before. Clarissa's trembling hand flew to her mouth. Harriet's eyes nearly popped out of her head. Robert Morris looked ready to call security, and Daniel's face went bone white. The entire atmosphere, once filled with pastel decorations and the promise of new life, had been seized by an almost suffocating gloom. Clarissa felt her knees buckle. She's pregnant too? The betrayal cut even deeper than any heartbreak she had ever imagined. Harriet had to steady Clarissa again, worried she might collapse. Guests stood frozen, torn between disbelief and morbid curiosity. Daniel swallowed hard, glancing at Veronica in horror. "What are you talking about?" Veronica folded her arms, her gaze smug. "I found out a few weeks ago. I thought you'd be happy. After all, you told me privately that you weren't sure if Clarissa's baby was truly what you wanted. You said you might want a child with someone else someday." She shot Clarissa a twisted look. "I guess that day is now." "You're lying," Daniel shouted. "I never said that. You're just—" "Oh, I'm lying." Veronica took out a folded piece of paper from her clutch. "Doctor's note confirming my pregnancy. Should I show everyone?" She looked around the crowd, whose collective shock had turned into a silent horror show. "Perhaps you'd like me to describe the night of conception. The hotel you booked for us, remember? The one near the beach in Santa Monica?" Clarissa, her face hot with tears, tried to hold on to a shred of composure. Daniel was gasping for breath, struggling to piece together Veronica's claims. The child could easily be someone else's. He and Veronica had only kissed unless, in a moment of drunken weakness, he had blacked out. The confusion ate at him. In an attempt to reason, he shook his head vigorously. "This is madness," he muttered. "Clarissa, the first never, maybe for a fleeting second I was drawn to her, but I did not sleep with her. She's lying to tear us apart." Veronica raised an eyebrow. "So I'm lying about the baby now? Care to do a paternity test?" "I'd be happy to oblige." Clarissa couldn't stand it anymore. Panic surged within her. She cradled her belly, terrified that the stress might harm her unborn child. The feeling of betrayal was crushing. Her husband might have fathered another woman's child. Her entire relationship felt like a house of cards toppling in an earthquake. Harriet sensed the imminent danger of Clarissa's stress levels and guided her to a nearby chair. Robert Morris signaled to some of the hotel staff, requesting water, a cold towel, anything to help Clarissa calm down. In the background, the hum of whispered gossip escalated. Photos and videos were surely being posted online. Then, in the midst of the chaos, an unexpected voice spoke up. One of the servers from Daniel's restaurant, a young woman named Lily, stepped forward nervously. She recognized Veronica well and had overheard staff gossip about her. "I'm sorry," Lily began, voice trembling, "but I have something to say." All eyes pivoted to Lily, who seemed to gather her courage. "I overheard Veronica on her phone a few weeks ago. She was bragging that she'd found the perfect man to pin a pregnancy on. Her words, not mine. She said he was rich, successful, and that once she claimed he was the father, she'd be set for life." A ripple of shock swept through the crowd. Veronica shot Lily a look of pure venom. "Shut your mouth. You don't know anything," but Lily persisted. She specifically mentioned forging a document if necessary. "I was so disturbed, but I didn't think it was my place to say anything. Now I see that I should have spoken up sooner." She turned to Clarissa with a remorseful expression. "I'm so sorry. I should have warned you or Daniel." A glimmer of hope stirred in Clarissa's chest. Could this entire fiasco be part of Veronica's twisted game? Daniel, although furious at Lily for not coming forward earlier, felt an immense wave of relief. "She's lying about the baby," he repeated firmly, stepping toward Clarissa. "The first, swear, Clarissa, the first did not do this." Veronica, cornered by Lily's accusation, found her confidence faltering. But she put on one last show of defiance. "You pitiful little waitress, trying to tear me down. Everyone here knows you're just a petty employee who wants to get in the boss's good graces. I have a doctor's note and I will prove it's real." Daniel seized the moment. "Fine. Let's do a test. Right now, the best fertility clinic in Beverly Hills is less than 15 minutes away. We can settle this once and for all." Veronica blanched. She hadn't anticipated being backed into a corner so quickly. She stammered, "Fine, let's go. Right now, let's go." But instead of heading for the door, Veronica whipped around to face Clarissa. Her eyes glimmered with twisted glee. "Even if the baby is not Daniel's, think about what you've witnessed. He cheated, emotionally at least. He lied. He betrayed you. You'll never trust him again. Isn't that enough for you to leave him?" Clarissa stared at Veronica, raw heartbreak in her eyes. Indeed, trust was shattered, and no matter the paternity test result, Daniel's betrayal was undeniable. Still, Clarissa felt a flicker of strength inside her. She held herself upright, mustering a resolve she didn't know she had. "You've done enough damage," she told Veronica, her voice trembling but firm. "Now get out of my baby shower. If you have proof of your claims, take them to a lawyer. Otherwise, leave me my child and my family in peace." Veronica realized her plan to publicly humiliate Clarissa had spectacularly backfired. While she had certainly caused a huge rift, the presence of Lily and the immediate call for a paternity test threatened to expose her for the manipulative opportunist she was. Without further theatrics, she dashed toward the exit, pushing past stunned guests. Yet before she could vanish, Daniel's security team, who, upon noticing the escalating drama, had stationed themselves at the ballroom doors, approached her. "Excuse me, ma'am," one security guard said, stepping into her path. "We have been asked to ensure that you do not cause further disturbance. Would you please come with us?" Sensing that a physical confrontation wouldn't benefit her, Veronica plastered on a final sneer and held her head high. "Don't worry, I'm leaving, but this isn't over." With that, she stormed out, letting the heavy doors bang shut behind her. Inside, the crowd exhaled collectively, as if they'd been holding their breath for an eternity. Clarissa, still in shock, sank deeper into her chair. Harriet kneeled beside her, holding her hand. Daniel looked lost, torn between relief and despair. The entire ambience once bright and joyful, had been poisoned by betrayal and lies. Robert Morris, trying to take charge of the situation, clapped his hands. "Everyone, perhaps we should give the family some privacy. The shower is concluded for now. Please respect." Clarissa's need for rest. Guests, nodding solemnly, began to disperse, some whispering consolation and others casting suspicious glances at Daniel. A few staff members from the hotel helped pack up the gifts, while Harriet guided Clarissa toward a private room to calm down. Daniel lingered behind, speaking quietly to Robert. "I need to fix this," he said, voice hushed. "I made a huge mistake. I don't know how to make it right." Robert's expression was grave. "First, go to Clarissa, apologize, assure her you'll do the paternity test to clear your name on that front. The rest, well, you'll need to earn her trust again, if that's even possible." Daniel nodded, feeling like the loneliest man in the world. He might have been a millionaire, but in that moment, he felt emotionally bankrupt. Clarissa's entire body trembled with the aftershocks of what had just transpired. She sat in the hotel's private suite, Harriet holding her hand while a concerned nurse summoned by the hotel staff checked her blood pressure. Once it was clear Clarissa was physically stable, Harriet thanked the nurse and insisted that the best medicine for her daughter right now was peace and quiet. "Mum," Clarissa finally said in a hushed tone, "I can't believe all of this. I'm so humiliated." Harriet squeezed her daughter's hand. "You have nothing to be ashamed of, sweetheart. That woman was vile. Daniel, he's going to have to answer to you, and he'll need to do everything in his power to repair this." Clarissa's eyes brimmed with tears again. "I thought we had the perfect marriage. I never imagined something like this could happen." Harriet stroked her hair gently. "Marriage is complicated. People make mistakes, but only you can decide if this mistake is forgivable. Right now, you need to focus on your health and the baby." A soft knock on the door drew their attention. Daniel stood there, looking like a man on the edge of collapse. His once confident posture was slumped in remorse. Harriet gave Clarissa's shoulder a reassuring squeeze before stepping out of the room, granting them privacy. Clarissa eyed him warily, her heart torn between love and betrayal. He began to speak, voice thick with emotion. "Clarissa, the first am so sorry. I never wanted you to be hurt like this. I was weak. I was foolish. But I swear on everything I hold dear, I never slept with her." Clarissa took a shaky breath. "Daniel, you still kissed her. You confessed personal feelings to her that you should have been sharing with me. You said you felt trapped by the pregnancy." He flinched, as though struck. "That was never how I truly felt. I was overwhelmed. Yes, but I love you. I love our child. Veronica manipulated me." Clarissa laughed bitterly. "Of course she did, but you let her. That doesn't absolve you of blame. How can I trust you now?" Daniel lowered his head. "I don't expect you to trust me right away, but give me a chance to prove myself. I'll do the paternity test immediately. I'll handle Veronica legally if needed. I'll go to counseling. Anything to show you that you and our baby come first." The sincerity in his voice tugged at Clarissa's heart. She wanted to believe him, but the wound was fresh, the pain still excruciating. With tears spilling down her cheeks, she shook her head slowly. "I just need time. This entire day, what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, has been ruined. I need space, Daniel." He nodded, eyes shimmering with tears. "I understand." With that, he slowly turned and walked out, leaving Clarissa to her grief. Harriet slipped back in, wrapping her daughter in a comforting embrace. The mother-to-be's tears stained her once lovely dress, and the shadow of betrayal cloaked what should have been a radiant celebration. Veronica was furious. She had fled the baby shower in a storm of embarrassment, but she wasn't ready to concede defeat. For days after the event, rumors spread across social media. Short videos of her confrontation at the shower popped up on gossip blogs. People speculated whether Daniel was indeed the father of her alleged baby, or if she was a cunning gold digger. The majority seemed to side with Clarissa, condemning Veronica's brazen attempt to overshadow the baby shower. In the court of public opinion, Veronica was a pariah, but still, she believed she had a trump card. She knew that whether or not the child was Daniel's, the spectre of paternity could rattle him. If he wanted to ensure she remained silent about their dalliance, whatever shape it took, he might be inclined to settle financially. She dreamt of a lavish lifestyle, and she wasn't about to let that dream slip away. Veronica scheduled an appointment at a reputable OB-GYN in Beverly Hills, forging Daniel's name on forms as the potential father. She planned to use the records as leverage, confident she could claim Daniel was refusing to accept responsibility. She also booked a consultation with a high-powered lawyer known for winning massive paternity suits. Even if DNA tests disproved Daniel's fatherhood, she hoped to drag out the process long enough to gain a sizable settlement. She reveled in the idea of Clarissa losing faith in Daniel, fueling a fire that might burn the marriage to ash. Yet there was one factor Veronica hadn't anticipated: the tight-knit nature of Daniel's business empire. Many employees saw Clarissa as the beloved wife of their boss, a kind soul who often donated to their family causes. Lily's confession at the shower had earned her scorn from Veronica, but Lily was quietly praised by co-workers for doing the right thing. Word spread, and soon the entire staff was banding together, refusing to cooperate with Veronica. In fact, some employees had evidence of Veronica's manipulative tactics: texts, overheard conversations, times she tried to seduce or blackmail other managers. The tide was turning, and it wasn't in Veronica's favor. As promised, Daniel wasted no time setting up a DNA paternity test. Though typically performed after the baby's birth, there were prenatal tests that could determine paternity with a blood sample from the mother. Veronica, savoring the drama, agreed to a non-invasive prenatal paternity NIPP test. So long as Daniel footed the bill, she feigned reluctance, acting as though she were being pressured by a powerful man. In reality, she hoped the test results could be delayed, giving her more time to extort hush money. But Daniel was done being a victim of Veronica's schemes. He requested a top-notch lab used by many Hollywood celebrities who needed privacy and speed. The lab staff had zero tolerance for tampering or bribes. Veronica submitted her sample, confident she could coax or blackmail a technician. She quickly learned that the lab's security measures were too strict. By the time she realized how tightly monitored the facility was, she was in too deep. Clarissa, meanwhile, wrestled with heartbreak and anxiety. Despite her anger, she felt a twinge of dread at the thought that the test could confirm Veronica's pregnancy with Daniel. What if he really fathered her child? The betrayal would be insurmountable. She might walk away for good, filing for divorce and raising her baby on her own. On the other hand, if the test cleared Daniel, how would she reconcile the emotional affair? Would she try to forgive him? Could she even salvage the shards of trust left between them? Days passed, filled with tension. Harriet insisted Clarissa stay at her house, away from the marital home she shared with Daniel. Clarissa agreed, but she allowed Daniel to visit each evening to check on her health. Their interactions were polite but strained. Sometimes Clarissa would break down in tears, lamenting that she didn't know if she could ever forgive him. Daniel would patiently listen, offering gentle reassurances that his love was real. Finally, the test results arrived. Daniel opened the envelope in the presence of his lawyer, Robert Morris, and Clarissa. Hands trembling, Clarissa read over his shoulder the result: 0% chance that Daniel was the father. A collective sigh of relief filled the room. Daniel hugged Clarissa, tears of gratitude in his eyes. Clarissa cried too, though not solely from relief. She cried for the betrayal she had endured, for the baby shower fiasco, for the heartbreak that might have been avoided if Daniel had been stronger or more transparent. Robert Morris wasted no time. He reached out to a trusted contact in the district attorney's office, explaining how Veronica had forged documents, blackmailed Daniel, and defamed him. The wheels of justice began to turn, albeit slowly. Soon, Veronica would realize that not only had she failed to break Daniel and Clarissa's marriage, but she might face legal consequences for her deceit. When Veronica received the official paternity test results, her fury knew no bounds. Yet she quickly pivoted to her next strategy. She filed a lawsuit against Daniel for intentional infliction of emotional distress, claiming he had strung her along, causing her mental anguish. She demanded a settlement, hoping Daniel would pay to keep the scandal from further tarnishing his reputation. Daniel's legal team responded with chilling efficiency. They countersued for defamation, blackmail, and fraud. They possessed a trove of evidence collected from staff members' texts, audio recordings, and other documentation. Veronica found herself cornered. No powerful lawyer would take her case without a massive retainer, something she couldn't afford. She was forced to rely on a small-time attorney who took half-hearted interest in her plight. Word spread among other wealthy entrepreneurs in Los Angeles, particularly those who used to see Veronica as a charming, if ambitious, hostess. She was effectively blacklisted from high-end establishments, her manipulations too notorious. She tried applying for hostess jobs elsewhere, but her name raised red flags. A few tabloids wrote scathing exposes on her infiltration attempts into the Maya Empire. She even contemplated leaving Los Angeles altogether. But before she could finalize an escape plan, Veronica received another blow, a subpoena. Daniel's legal team was pushing for a thorough investigation into her alleged forgeries. If proven, Veronica could face criminal charges. The baby shower fiasco, which she had planned as her triumphant reveal, had snowballed into her downfall. Her illusions of grandeur evaporated, leaving her with the stark reality that she had become a social outcast, financially desperate, and possibly on the brink of facing jail time. Clarissa watched from the sidelines as Veronica's life crumbled, yet she took little joy in it. She was too focused on managing her own stress levels and preparing for the arrival of her baby. The memory of her baby shower, once envisioned as a magical day, still loomed over her like a dark cloud. Daniel, for his part, devoted himself to repairing the marriage. He began therapy to address the emotional barriers that led him to confide in Veronica. He also insisted Clarissa join him for couples counseling once a week. Initially, Clarissa resisted. She was angry and felt betrayed, questioning whether therapy could mend something so profoundly damaged. But Harriet gently encouraged her, reminding Clarissa that a child deserved two parents who at least attempted reconciliation. Counseling sessions were raw and painful. Clarissa vented her anger, crying over how Daniel's half-truths had shattered her self-esteem. She admitted feeling insecure about her body during pregnancy, about Daniel possibly losing interest in her. Daniel confessed the fears he had about being a father, worries about not living up to the role, about losing his identity in the process. He admitted that he found Veronica's attention flattering, a reminder of his pre-marriage freedom. But as the weeks passed, the therapy sessions fostered open conversations they had never had before. Slowly, Clarissa saw that Daniel wasn't some cold-hearted monster, but rather a flawed man who made terrible choices. The bond they shared, once so strong, might be rebuilt if they worked hard enough. During this time, Harriet remained a pillar of support. She helped Clarissa with everyday tasks, soothed her daughter's grief, and quietly reminded Daniel that if he ever pulled such a stunt again, She would personally ensure Clarissa never suffered. Despite the tension, Harriet understood the complexities of love and betrayal. Her presence anchored Clarissa in hope. Just as it seemed everything was settling into a pattern of slow healing, a twist emerged from an unexpected source: Veronica's own mother. A frail, older woman arrived at Daniel's office one afternoon, politely asking to speak with him. Concerned, Daniel invited her in, uncertain of her motives. She introduced herself as Marjorie Cole. Her grey, streaked hair and weary eyes spoke of a hard life. She confessed that she hadn't spoken to her daughter, Veronica, in years. But she'd seen the scandal unfold on local news stations and read about it in tabloids. She was horrified to learn her daughter had become so consumed by greed and hatred. Veronica was always troubled, Marjorie whispered. She wanted to escape poverty at all costs. I tried to raise her right, but I failed. I'm sorry for the pain she's caused you and your family. Daniel, still reeling from all the damage Veronica had inflicted, wasn't sure how to respond. I appreciate your apology, Mrs. Cole, but your daughter nearly destroyed my marriage. She humiliated my wife in front of our entire social circle. Tears slipped from Marjorie's eyes. I know. I can't excuse her actions, but I want to help you. I have information that might persuade her to drop all legal claims and vanish from your life forever. My daughter has a history of forging documents and blackmailing men. She was involved in a similar scandal back in Florida, though it never got this big. I have proof that can ensure you win your countersuit. She handed over a worn-out folder containing letters, testimonies, and dated photos. Daniel thumbed through them, astonished. If the evidence was authentic, it would be the final nail in Veronica's coffin. She wouldn't be able to manipulate the legal system anymore. Marjorie sighed, her shoulders sagging. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing this for the innocent lives she's trying to trample. No one deserves what my daughter has done. Daniel thanked her, promising to handle the matter discreetly. He walked her to the door, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. Veronica's mother had essentially delivered the means to end this battle. The entire situation felt surreal, one mother stepping in to help protect another mother from her own daughter's cruelty. Armed with Marjorie's documents, Daniel's lawyers swiftly dismantled Veronica's final legal claims. Faced with irrefutable evidence of her history of fraud, Veronica's attorney advised her to drop the suit. She had no choice but to comply. The countersuit for defamation and fraud loomed large, and she knew she was on the brink of criminal charges if she continued to fight. Desperate, Veronica reached out to Daniel, leaving tearful voicemails. She begged him to meet her privately, to show mercy. Daniel refused. He saw no point in hearing more of her manipulations. He wanted her out of his life, out of Clarissa's life, and never again to torment them. The last message Veronica left was a bitter diatribe, cursing Daniel and promising that he'd regret discarding her. But her words carried no weight. She had lost all leverage. Daniel's lawyers arranged for Veronica to sign a cease and desist agreement, preventing her from making further public statements about the Myers. In return, Daniel's side agreed to drop certain financial damages. Veronica was left jobless, socially ostracized, and saddled with legal fees that would haunt her for years. She disappeared from the Los Angeles social scene, rumored to have moved to a cheap estate. There, she might find a fresh start, or she might simply repeat her cycle of deception. It no longer mattered to Clarissa or Daniel. They were free of her. With Veronica gone, Clarissa and Daniel's focus turned toward their baby's impending arrival. The stress of the ordeal had taken a toll on Clarissa's final weeks of pregnancy. However, through counseling, she learned strategies to cope with anxiety, reminding herself that her baby needed serenity and positive energy. Daniel worked hard to reassure her, taking over more responsibilities, surprising her with daily acts of kindness, reading parenting books, and practicing baby swaddling techniques to prepare. Harriet remained at their side, providing home-cooked meals and moral support. She watched as Daniel humbly tried to rebuild the trust he had broken. Over time, Harriet's hostility toward him softened, but she maintained a protective stance. She reminded him daily, either through a pointed look or a cautionary word, that Clarissa's well-being was paramount. At last, on a clear, sunny morning, Clarissa went into labor. Daniel rushed her to Cedars Sinai Medical Center. The labor was long and exhausting, but Clarissa endured with Daniel by her side. He held her hand through every painful contraction, whispering words of encouragement and love. Though a piece of Clarissa's heart still ached from the betrayal, she found solace in seeing Daniel's earnest devotion in that crucial moment. Their son, named Nathaniel James Meyer, entered the world with a sharp, healthy cry. Clarissa wept with relief and joy. Daniel cradled the tiny infant, tears streaming down his cheeks. Harriet, who had been pacing in the waiting room, rushed in to behold her grandson. She, too, was overwhelmed by emotion. For a moment, the bitterness of the past months slipped away, replaced by the miracle of new life. In the days following Nathaniel's birth, Clarissa and Daniel navigated the intense learning curve of new parenthood. Late-night feedings, diaper changes, and the simultaneous exhaustion and wonder that came with caring for an infant. The specter of Veronica's betrayal still lingered, but it felt more distant with each day spent bonding as a family. Daniel continued therapy individually, determined not to repeat the emotional missteps of the past. Couples counseling also resumed, with the added dynamic of parenthood shaping their discussions. Clarissa took comfort in small gestures, the way Daniel volunteered for 3 a.m. feedings, how he gazed at Nathaniel with pure adoration, how he insisted Clarissa sleep while he handled chores. These tangible displays of love helped mend the wounds of betrayal. Still, it wasn't a fairy tale ending. Scars remained. Clarissa had triggered certain songs or places that reminded her of the baby shower fiasco. She had nightmares of Veronica barging in with new accusations. Sometimes, in moments of doubt, she questioned whether Daniel truly wanted this life. But then she'd see him carefully rocking Nathaniel to sleep or catch him reading a fatherhood article. She realized that, step by step, he was proving himself. Harriet, too, noticed the changes. She watched Daniel transform from a confident businessman into a gentle, nurturing father. She quietly confided to Clarissa, "He's growing up. Sometimes men take longer than we'd like, but if he's genuinely working to be better, that's worth considering." The final note of karma came months later when Veronica, unable to pay her mounting legal bills, was forced to file for bankruptcy. Word reached Los Angeles through a mutual acquaintance. Clarissa, holding Nathaniel, read the news on her phone. She experienced a strange mix of emotions. She had never wished utter ruination on anyone, but part of her felt a quiet sense of justice. Veronica had inflicted incredible harm, and now she was paying the price. Daniel, reading over Clarissa's shoulder, gently kissed her temple. "I hope she finds peace someday," he said, surprising Clarissa. She expected rage or bitterness, but perhaps therapy had changed him. He knew better than anyone the destructive power of resentment. Letting go was, in its own way, more liberating. Clarissa nodded, tears welling in her eyes. She thought back to her ruined baby shower, to the humiliating scene that had shattered her world. Yet here she was, cradling a healthy baby boy, next to a husband who was fighting to atone for his mistakes. Life had a strange way of weaving tragedy and joy together. While the memory still stung, Clarissa felt stronger than before. She had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and a public scandal. She had found resilience in herself she never knew existed. Harriet, standing at the doorway, smiled as she saw the little family. She stepped forward, pressing a gentle hand on Clarissa's shoulder. "I'm proud of you," she whispered, "of both of you." In that moment, Clarissa realized that though her baby shower was destroyed, a different kind of celebration was blossoming, a celebration of second chances, personal growth, and the kind of love that endures storms. It wasn't a neat, tidy ending. Healing would be ongoing work. But as Nathaniel gurgled happily in her arms, Clarissa felt hope eclipse the darkness. This was her real life, a fragile, beautiful tapestry of mistakes, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Every fall from grace can offer a chance for redemption if people are willing to learn from their mistakes. Clarissa and Daniel's marriage, once shaken to its core, found fresh footing through honest conversations, therapy, and the tender embrace of new parenthood. The mistress, who orchestrated chaos and nearly succeeded in tearing them apart, ultimately met the consequences of her deeds. She faded from high society and faced the heavy toll of her schemes. While no relationship emerges unscathed from betrayal, Clarissa and Daniel discovered that broken trust can sometimes be rebuilt if two people commit to healing and growth together.